Okie dokie. I see a room full of people, so invite everyone because that's the highlight of the day, besides the tomorrow's raffle. So, shall we start the most interesting part of today? Uh, we prepared panel discussion with so many great speakers up here, most of them CNCF ambassadors or KCD organizers or contributors, anyone, the top people we have around, or the top. So it will be like pretty interesting discussion, I think. Uh, what we are gonna talk about. First of all, I'll let some time to introduce each and every one of you, and then to just frame a discussion a bit. Imagine it's like the 2 a.m. in the morning. You have your freaking AI agent running inside your Kubernetes cluster. It runs some random kubectl command like nobody has ever approved or seen. Your on call is sleeping, and by morning your production is half healed, half broken, and your CSO wants to know what have been done, who did what, and most importantly, who approved that. Uh, as you can imagine, your audit log says nothing, system, something similar, and this isn't theory. This isn't like hypothetical situation. It's already happening. AI agents are running at production, touching your deployments, closing tickets, mutating infra, shipping codes without any reviews whatsoever. And yeah, it's kind of interesting time happening. The human part approving anything is basically a fiction right now, to cut it short. And the last thing we have holding the line is our observability. So the telemetry is the only thing that can really tell what the agent did and whether you should be worried or not, as I can see it. So the question which stands out, and that's the pinpoint of the discussion, is your observability stack actually up to the job, or have we been like quietly downgrading your audit to debug for the past decade? So that's the thing we will speak about. And we have a vendor which is like watching the field closely from dash zero. We have a SIG maintainer which kind of hears the user complaints maybe from the inside. We have an engineer that digs right into the kernel with EBB path. And we have a builder that actually shipped something with AI within a regulated environment. So I think you will disagree on some stuff. To keep it spicy. Okay, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. So I'm Yury. I'm principal solutions architect in Abound, and Abound, we are creators of Crossplane project. So I'm in customer-facing team of solutions architects. So we're helping organization like Fortune 150 to adopt Crossplane at large scale. And yeah, tomorrow we will have a talk exactly about running AI-enabled operations in a regulated bank. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adriana Villela. I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, but I currently live in Toronto, Canada. I am one of the OTEL community managers, also a maintainer of the OTEL and user SIG, CNCF ambassador, serial blogger, and I have a podcast. My day job is a principal developer advocate at Dynatrace. And tomorrow I've got to talk about what happens past the initial adoption of OpenTelemetry. I also love bouldering. I checked out a bouldering gym here yesterday, and I love capybaras because they're so cute and they make me happy.
Hey everyone, I'm Donia Chaiehloudj. I'm a software engineer working at Isovalent at Cisco. And I've been working on Cilium, which is the main open source product. It's a networking Kubernetes agent. And I also dive into eBPF because I think it's fun to understand what's under the hood. Otherwise, I like bouldering too. And I love swing dancing. I don't know if you have a big community here, but I would love to dance tonight.
All right, I'm Kasper. I already introduced myself this morning, but I can do it again. I am director of product marketing and developer relations at Dasero. So I spend a lot of time in the community around OpenTelemetry, around Perseus, for dashboarding. And yeah, I just love being part of these communities. So I'm also an organizer of an event myself in Denmark, also for meetups, etc. So yeah, if you're in Denmark in November, stop by. There's going to be a cool conference there as well. We have CFPs open. But yeah, so I think that would be my introduction.
Cool. We'd love to come. Sure. Okay, so to start fresh, as you holding the mic, Kasper, you have watched like platform teams ship of observability for quite some time, I think. And what is the like one mistake you see them repeating all over again?
So yeah, I've been in this observability space for actually only a year and I don't know 3 or 4 months now. But I come from a background of being an SRE, a staff platform engineer at a company in Denmark, a bank. And I can say one of the things that we struggled a lot with back then was basically we treated our sort of observability stack as a tool. We just like took some tools from the ecosystem, put it out, and say, "Hey, developer, go figure it out." And I think that was also the message that I was trying to convey this morning, that is probably not the way you should be doing it. Start treating observability as a product and create that foundation around maybe using OpenTelemetry as that foundation to make it easy for your developers to just get their applications into the cluster and start getting instrumentation and telemetry flowing so that you have a good baseline. You don't want to force your developers to, configure everything in code and set all of that up. I think you can come quite a long way just using some of the tools out there, the operator to basically do the instrumentation for you. So I would say stop treating basically observability as this tool and start treating it more as a product.
Is there any specific feature you see like the being shipped but like never ever used?
Yeah, I think also just remembering back to my time at Lunar, and I think we created a lot of custom dashboards in the platform, but I don't think anyone was actually using them. They were basically just, going into the tools, trying out, because the situation always, so an incident is not always the same, right? It's always a different thing. So building a dashboard for a specific purpose is probably not what you are looking for when you want to investigate something going wrong in the middle of the night. You probably want a system that allows you to query things across all of the different telemetry you have. Maybe even nowadays with all the AI that you just mentioned before in natural language. I think that is where we are heading towards nowadays, is that we are coming to a point where we can just ask questions about our systems and our systems will just give us answers back, which is really awesome. And it makes it so much easier when you are being woken up by a page at 3 a.m. that you could just ask the question of what is actually going on. And then it comes back with the answer. But I think the next step is also what I mentioned this morning, is really about this is going to be more proactive as we move further along, because I think right now many of the tools out there in this ecosystem and also in the different vendors is that it's very much a chatbot kind of interface still, that you ask questions and then you get an answer. But I definitely see this is moving more into a proactive state where the systems will, automatically all the time figure out what is going on. And when the pager then maybe, fires, maybe it's just a PR that needs to be approved or something else. I would probably not recommend putting things into the cluster itself and have it do all of those. I would probably build it around in the SDLC space instead of putting things directly in the cluster, so that you have an agent that maybe creates a PR. You already have GitOps in many cases, right? So maybe tap into that workflow instead of tapping into Kubernetes directly, because that could have some interesting consequences, I can imagine.
That's for sure. Thank you. Okay, Donia, a question for you. Since you have covered just a few moments ago eBPF doing something with GPUs, really interesting stuff. At what point the eBPF stops being an answer for you? What's the thing that it cannot cover?
Yeah, I think that I covered actually how to get metrics from your CPU and GPU and what is the behavior. But again, you need a context. Like you need to understand, like when I refer to inference, eBPF is not going to give you an answer about the behavior of something depending on what you ask. So it's going to give you exactly facts and numbers. That's a metric. Then you have to correlate all this information with more context about what was happening at the beginning of your prompt. So I think that eBPF will give you insight about what's happening under the hood, like really deep, like granular, I would say, functions. So you can spot what is lagging, where is the latency or spikes, whatever, but it won't give you this context. So you have to build tools around that. It's just a foundation and a tool to get all these metrics, and then you can do something with it.
Cool. Is there some specific part that even eBPF like still gets wrong?
That's a good question. I don't know if eBPF will get you something wrong because, again, it's just facts. So I think that depends what is the code that you're writing, of course. But when you're going to have, so for the people, maybe you don't know what is eBPF if you're not like at the talk, I'm sorry. But eBPF is just a way to run dynamically code into your kernel without modifying the kernel itself. So you can get metrics on what's happening on your Linux kernel and GPU device too now. What was the question? I'm sorry.
I mean, to reframe the question a bit,
Yeah.
imagine like your AI agent running inside your
Yeah.
cluster, and whether with eBPF enabled, you can tell whether your agent like lies to you somehow.
I think that yeah, again, I don't think it's about lies.
Yeah,
I
could
think
you rate it like
yeah.
to inference, like to get the
Yeah.
actual data from the kernel, and if on top of that agent can still like derive the information by its own, and it's like still irrelevant.
Yeah, but again, like it depends on the way you're writing your code and where you're hooking. So if you want to have like a full picture of what's happening, you need to hook to the proper hook points,
Yeah.
which is another debate, and how to hook point and find the proper hook point to observe what you want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Next one, Adriana. Question for you. Since you are inside the hotel end user SIG, kind of interesting place to be. What mistake do you see like the users making all over again that bites them later in the wrong possible time?
I think sometimes it's underestimating how much work it is to implement OpenTelemetry. Because and by the way, OpenTelemetry graduated recently, which is very exciting news.
Yeah, it is.
It OpenTelemetry has a lot of moving parts, and so it can be like really overwhelming. And I think if you don't take the time to understand what those moving parts are, and ask questions within the SIGs, especially, and I really emphasize that because the folks who run the various SIGs are so good at answering questions. I Every time I prep for a new talk, I always and it involves like SIG like OpAmp or Weaver or Arrow. I'm always terrified of asking them questions, and like I shouldn't be because they're super respondent when it comes to that. But I would say underestimating the amount of work that it takes. I think the other one is within organizations. Some organizations still treat observability very much as monitoring. They think that the two are synonymous. And I think that can be very problematic because it's still a very old school way of thinking. And so it tends to be more, an focus on SRE, when observability really is all about involving everyone within the organization, and it starts with development. It's not just about getting metrics from your infrastructure. It's not just about getting logs from your infrastructure. It's also about getting the traces, logs, and metrics from your application and treating it as trace first. so that you're able to tell that story. So that whether it's a human troubleshooting or an AI troubleshooting, you have those breadcrumbs that tell the story.
And in the event that like the company's budget goes off the rails regarding the open telemetry and their like budget on it, what's the signal that they are most tempted to cut the first that they should not?
They're probably tempted to cut, I would say, traces, which is the most important signal. And I think there's a very comfortable fallback on metrics or even logs because that's what companies have been used to, right? And I think, going back to your original question, there's also this tendency of, through zero code instrumentation or auto instrumentation, where you don't have to touch your application code to instrument it. um, you can get a lot of telemetry, and just because you're getting a lot of telemetry doesn't mean that it's good telemetry. In fact, a lot of it is crap. And so to be able to identify that, I think a lot of organizations are really surprised when they turn that on and they're like, oh my god, I can't make sense of anything because now I'm having to do an archaeological dig, which is counter to what observability was meant to be. So keeping that in mind as well. It doesn't mean don't use it, just be very mindful of it.
That's very correct. Thank you for that. Okay, sure, go ahead.
It's an interesting question because like you wouldn't ask like a pilot to put on a blindfold, right, and remove half of the actual instruments because they are kind of needed in order to understand what is going
They can
on.
go by memory, you know.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make that point that it's a little bit crazy. It's a crazy ask, right, to remove like partial views of your systems.
Yeah, you end up partially blind. Yeah. Cool. Yury, kind of fast forward for tomorrow's presentation, but did you ever experience the self-healing caused by AI agent to do something you like really regretted?
That's a good question. So first thing first, like I'm not fond of the practice like put kube control on the agent stuff. Like I'm more deterministic guy, let's say. So how we
That's
try,
how it should be. Yeah.
yeah. How we try to lay out it with crossplane. So we have a set of deterministic abstractions that are still predictable and human can understand how they work. And only then we inject, if you follow crossplane v2 story, we have a new concept of operations like that can abstract day2 operations. And that's where we put this small, just enough AI prompts that can actually interface with the deterministic abstractions, right? So the core, the most critical part is highly testable and reliable. And our V2 operation stuff is doing this probabilistic part, right? So on a regret part, we can, I had an example of a cost optimizer in the form of V2 operations. And when it optimized a lot, so it understood the task like too eagerly, let's say. So it downscale the associated database abstraction to minimal micro type. And that obviously made it the operation not performing very well. So that's probably the case.
But task done, it was cheaper.
Yeah. So that's the part where you need to test your prompt as well. Also test the probabilistic part next to your deterministic one.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for that. Okay, and now the spicy ones. The question that everyone will love. AI agent or junior SRE in your production cluster? Which one gets the right access first?
I will always give it to the human. My thought on it is it's a lot easier to first of all, I don't want to live in a world where we abdicate full control of our systems to AI. I think that becomes very dangerous. If we put too much of our if we basically outsource too much of our knowledge to AI, then you don't have a junior who will eventually become the senior to take on that role. So essentially, if there's an issue, I do want my junior there. I can sit there with my junior and help mentor them, and help them through an issue. Whereas with AI, yeah, it's you definitely like still have that intervention part, but I feel like sometimes it works so fast, and sometimes it's so easy to like hit okay, when the AI asks you like, "Oh, are you okay with this change?" and you haven't had a chance to think, right? Because so often we're kind of on autopilot that I think it becomes really, really dangerous. So yeah, junior always.
I have the same hot take, but I would like to add something else about more political aspect, I would say, maybe. But we are driven by capitalism because we are working for companies and it's about money. So in the end, most of the people are going to take decision regarding money and how we can be more productive. So of course, AI agent is going to do a bunch of things faster than a junior because the junior is a human learning stuff. So if you're taking decisions, if you're someone in this room, I feel like just think twice before asking a senior engineer to ask the AI agent to do it. Just put a chance like and a coin for a junior because I don't know where they're gonna become these juniors people. So yeah, that's my hot take about it.
Yeah, I'm completely agreeing with you two. I will also choose the human first, but I guess the human would also have access to Claude Code or something, right? So they could get some insights from that perspective. But I think also that, as you also said, I wouldn't put an agent in the cluster right now. I think what we will be seeing in the next months, probably because things are moving so fast, a month feels like a year these days, is that we will probably see some like evaluations, and at some point when some certain evaluation reach the threshold that I'm pretty sure that whatever the AI sort of reasoned itself into is but 99% the right thing to do, then that's for some areas of production environments, maybe that's fine, maybe that's good enough, and then we'll just let that slide through and have like that will probably be a process that we see within the next months or years, that we are allowing the AI to do more and more, but still with some kind of guardrail in between that we can control and slide that back and forth as we see it.
Same question. Yeah, so from my perspective, you actually can put this just enough AI as I described, but in well-tested manner, right? So if you understand this prompt, how it will behave, so it's like will be in between of like totally probable design and something that you expect. So from my experience, like what we have in experiments and they're available as reference platforms in our cross-plane catalogs, right? So like this kind of autoscaler that is looking on a various factor and evaluates and actually patches the database abstraction. That kind of makes sense. It's also something that you can implement in deterministic manner as well. So I see it's like on the border, like you can, as an SRE, so junior SRE as well, you can automate your own knowledge, quickly put into this V2 operation prompt, see how it behaves, and then productionize it. And you can decide either you leave it to AI to make it some probabilistic design, or you implement it in a well-established deterministic controller.
Cool. Okay. And one from experience. Each one of you runs, I think, some sort of polished observability stack at your company where you work. And as you all know, the observability stack can contain a lot of sensitive data. Imagine what will happen if like some sort of evil people grant access to your data, and what's the first thing they will discover, or the most sensitive one? What will you be ashamed of? Maybe if there's something like that.
I don't have any like specific
What's the thing
examples
they
right now,
like
but
shouldn't see? And they will.
I can share some experience from my past job, at least, that because I think probably most of you who has like running a platform of some kind that have a ton of developers like doing things, there's at some point a log line that just enters into a service that contains a little bit of, I don't know, a social security number or email or something that is not compliant, and it ends up in your observability stack. I've definitely seen that in my past job. Luckily for us, at least, it was super easy to just remove that data again. But that's definitely what I've seen. So, but you could start like building in things in if you're running a project like OpenTelemetry, right? We have this concept of processes where you can define these processes to filter things that shouldn't be there or redact social security numbers. Or if you see something that resembles an email, just redact that thing and keep that information, but it's redacted so you cannot trace it back. So that would be sort of my answer to this. I've seen this happen, but there's also tools for you to run in your environments that can help you in this space.
Yeah, I mean, seconded on making sure that you use the appropriate processor in the OTel collector to redact your data because that is super important. Um, from past experience as well, I worked at a bank for 11 years, and it's incredible how tight they are on security. I mean, I remember I worked on a team where we needed to troubleshoot production data, and we needed to like fill out so much paperwork just to be able to dump the production data into our development databases to be able to troubleshoot. And so that gives me a lot of hope that a lot of organizations are super strict on these things. But of course, I mean, hackers always find or try to find a way around it. I remember talking on my previous podcast on Call Me Maybe, we had someone who worked at in information security. And I remember that we tried asking him a bunch of questions about stuff, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to talk about that." And I think
NDA questions, yeah.
it's like almost like spy work, right? And I think the infosec folks, they get a lot of crap when there's a data breach, but they are unsung heroes because the amount of like breaches that they prevent from happening is unreal, and they're not allowed to talk about it. They can't even like brag, "Hey, you have no idea, we just thwarted this breach." So I think it goes to show like there's so much stuff that's going on behind the scenes that they're not even allowed to talk about, that we're not even aware of. I think our attack vectors get I'd say amplified now with AI though, especially like with MCP servers, for example, especially the ones where you're like running them locally and you're like, "Ooh, this looks like a cool MCP server," and then next thing you know, like there's some really unsavory stuff happening and they've gotten access to your network. So I think companies are trying to figure out how to secure systems around that, especially. And also, I think there's just the overzealous AI agent where you're like, yeah, have at it, especially like when we do give a lot of autonomy to our AI agents. And I would say, I don't want to give the impression that I'm anti-AI. I'm not at all. I'm just saying, like, let's use AI wisely. And, I saw a post actually from Charity Majors on LinkedIn recently where she was making fun of the term human in the loop. And it was quite interesting because it shouldn't be human in the loop. It should really be human in control. At the end of the day, we are the ones who have the authority over our AI agents. And I think it gets really dangerous when you get into situations where you're just blindly giving like merge powers to your AI agents, and your AI agents are reviewing the pull requests. And I think that becomes extremely dangerous. So we just need to make sure that we mind our AI agents and we are the humans in control to prevent security breaches.
Is the question still what? Yeah. So the original question was like what I would be ashamed of, right? To observe, to push into observe. Yeah.
Observe to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a simple man and cross-plane builder, right? So anything that I'm ashamed of, I put behind the API line, so it's not visible. So that's an easy answer.
That's a great answer. Cool. And what is the next question? Okay, interesting one. Since we have already touched it a bit in some questions, but what is the industry trend that you see from your old backgrounds that like makes your eyes roll out and that you like most likely not see happening in the future, but you see like the trends go that way? What is the best thing in quotes you see for the future?
That's a hard question. I don't know if I have something specific. I would say that last KubeCon, I was just seeing AI on every stand. Like every booth had AI that was not present like a few months before, you know? So I just feel like we should be cautious on what's put behind on any like product that is just saying we are doing AI and if it's making sense and also if you want to put your money in there. So yeah, I don't know if I don't want to bash also on any people, but yeah, I don't know.
I think from my perspective, I just talked to someone in the hallway track earlier around that our job as engineers today is sort of changing from writing code to now being just reviewers of pull requests, more or less, right? I think all of that context switching is something that is really, really tiring. And then I hope we can like find a good way to solve, because it's really tiring just reading PRs all day. Anyone like experiencing that as well in here? Yeah, I see a few hands. Yes. And people are shaking their heads.
Yeah, just on that, I'm sorry if it was not the question, but there are a lot of discussions in open source about like how to manage like all the contributions made by open source contributor, but that are generated. And there is a lot of crap out there. People are not trying to understand the project and they're just submitting things. And there is like currently a whole discussion between open source maintainers and governance around like how to make open source projects still viable in this generative AI. So I think that's touching what you were saying.
Yeah, I'm also creator and maintainer of another open source project called KGV, Kubernetes Global Balancer, that provides global resilience across multi-origin Kubernetes clusters. So I start to receive these PRs that like very verbose, have a very verbose description, and I started to be allergic to that, right? So like if it sits too verbose, then it's already, most probably it's not high quality. So that's kind of bad sign.
When computers sneeze automatically.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, I think, whenever there's a new technology, we as a society just love to jump on everything. Like, I was actually listening to a podcast today, which was talking about, like, oh, when YouTube became a thing, all of a sudden, every company out there had this need to put like YouTube videos embedded in their web pages. And do you remember when everyone and their brother and sister was like trying to incorporate blockchain into everything? And crypto was like kind of this like crypto this, crypto that, and then that kind of died. And I feel like we're gonna see a little bit of that with AI. I don't think fully, but we do have this. I think organizations have this like panic response to new technology because they don't want FOMO. So like when this AI stuff started to like really gain traction, everyone's like, "Oh my god, if I don't do that, my investors are going to get mad, and then what, right?" And so I think a lot of companies are having like very knee-jerk reactions to this, but we are going to see, I think, eventually a stabilization as the sanity starts to return to organizations, and then they find like an actual good use and sort of it's almost like an equilibrium between AI and like finding a place for AI in their organizations. Like we're seeing, a lot of these like tech layoffs that are results of AI, and everyone's like, oh, laying off like tons of workers. And then they're like, oh, this is actually like using AI as much as we're using it is actually costing us more money. So now it's like there will probably be layoffs in tech related to AI, but maybe not in that same initial scale as companies kind of sober up and realize, oh, it's not exactly the way that we envisioned it initially.
Okay, and the last one from my side, for those of you with a bit of a SRE background, has any one of you had to like reconstruct some AI stuff that your agent did in production, or are we like in the territory that thank God nobody asked us? I mean, yeah, something happened, and then auto heals with your AI agent, and you know.
So I'm fortunate enough to not run things in production anymore, which I'm really glad. So I don't have like a full answer to this. So, but again, I would just like encourage you to not put like AI directly in the cluster right now. Maybe just hold your horses on that and see where things are going.
Yeah, maybe I can answer this one. So I had like two versions of it, right? So some like kind of agent can create some incident for customers, and we had to debug, right? And in our infra as well. But the most painful thing is actually to debug some AI-generated code, right? Especially like some cross-plane based composition generated with Go templating. So people tend to like sometimes go easy way and just generate like stuff that looks mm, uh, verbose, right? It kind of works. It even can do the stuff, but it's totally unmaintainable. So that's something I have to fix.
Yeah, I feel your pain. Cool. Let's take questions from the audience. We have a bit of time left. Okay, so first one. What looks more dangerous, junior AI agent, junior with AI agent, or someone who thinks is not junior anymore and uses agent? Bit complicated. You can read it. Thanks for the question.
Oh, I think the last one, someone who thinks they're not junior anymore and uses the agent, because I think AI gives you a very false sense of confidence, and I think that false sense of confidence ends up being dangerously infectious.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not a junior. Yeah, who think he's not junior anymore. Maybe he's senior enough in a sense, but yeah, we don't know. Um, that's a good question. I feel like all of them. Yeah, I feel all of them are kind of dangerous, but you have power to just balance it or to control it. Like a junior, you're gonna review the code. AI agent, hopefully you're gonna review and say yes or not. And junior with agent, I feel like that's today what's happening. I mean, everyone we are using agent, so that makes sense. Um, I was talking earlier. One of my friends, she's a CTO in a startup, and she recruited junior, and she told me like he's shipping features so fast. I don't have the time to understand like the topic that he already shipped everything. And I'm just like, I feel overwhelmed by AI and the Gen Z coming into the world of like engineering. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I would just say you probably have like a proper process in place, right? So whoever of these options there should probably be catched in some kind of PR review or something, right? Even though I know people were like like really shaking their heads before, but hopefully there is a process in place that will catch these things before it actually breaks production.
Yeah, I think on this topic is just very important for a human in the loop to understand how good and bad looks like from a code and operation perspective. So it doesn't matter if junior, he or she is junior or not, but if there is a good sense of quality, so I can trust this person. If the person is totally lost on the topic, so this AI generated slope can leak to production.
Okay, the next question I think we have already covered. So I'll switch to the last one. So, opinion regarding ownership in the later stages of AI integration, where AI creates changes, AI reviews them, AI deploys them. Should teams still be the owner?
I need to observe.
I think the team still needs to be the owner. I think we need accountability. We can't. Otherwise, Skynet's coming for us.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to put like an AI agent's name on it and then hey, you own it. That needs to be someone that is responsible for this thing, right?
Yeah, I think it goes with the new like commit standards that are emerging in the cloud native space. Like now you have to put, especially like like Linux, now you have to put like the model, the LLM that you're using, and the model assisted by. And I just feel like you're the owner, and you've been doing that with that tool. And I think it just like fits like all the changes or review and everything. Like you're doing it, but there is AI tool assisting you.
Yeah, so like for the ownership, I think like if a person engineer is more like on the loop of the development, right? So we are more steering the design and overall high level patterns and practices, right? So it's also one of the things that I see changing even in my own workflow. So in some places, I already do not care about the code quality. Like we are working with Tobias on some project, right? And we are really writing the loop and riding the wave, but we are steering the core patterns and we are like practicing TDD and all that stuff, but we are already not understanding each function of the code anymore, right? And that's the ownership, right? But it's already we transferred this thing, this specific project responsibility to AI for some core part of implementation. So we're riding the wave, steering the design.
Okay, and with that, I will close our panel discussion. Thanks once again, Kasper, Donia, Adriana, Yury, and thanks the audience.